Hey guys, Mindset Arc Podcast. It's Dim here again with you. I think it's episode 49 of my 365 project of me recording these videos and podcasts, talking about my events and something that I want to give you, something to reflect and just how my experience can be useful. And today I want to talk about what happened the last year, where I went through Armenia for a couple of months after my trip of moving countries. I ended up in Serbia. Before that, I was in Russia. If you don't know, or if you didn't listen to any of the previous podcasts, and I was 2 months in Armenia, just traveling through it, deciding where I want to live next. And there was a lot of stuff that happened there. So firstly, it was a very spontaneous trip. I didn't plan for it too much. I made all of the decisions in a couple of days. I booked everything. I didn't even just I didn't even think about moving countries that time. And then 4 or 5 days later, I was in another country, living in 1 week borrowed cheap hotel and just trying to understand what I want to do now. I was still working at that time remotely, as I do now, but there, while moving, I worked as well. And there was a lot of struggles in that period. Of course, I left a lot of stuff behind. Before that, I created a lot of structures to myself. I only discovered serious self-improvement. I started taking my diet and gym seriously. I overhauled my style just then. I started taking dating seriously based, uh, meaning I was using Tinder a lot and went on a lot of dates. I also took up sleeping schedules, so my life was optimized. It was so structured, and this gave me so much improvement in this couple of months and in the start of the year. And when I was on this trip, I had to leave a lot of this behind. I couldn't follow diet, I couldn't uh, follow dating as well, though I will return to that later. But because it was a traditional country and I didn't yet learned how to approach girls on the street, and Tinder just didn't work, and that gave me a lot of frustration as well there. And just mental problems of leaving everything behind and being completely alone. Well, I had one friend that I remotely talked with, but other than that, I was completely alone in a new place and I was trying to figure that out. And I was traveling as well through not a really hospitable hotels. I chose basically the cheapest ones. It was really cold at that time because they have a problems. Armenia overall has a problem with cold temperatures. They because it's a warm country and they just don't have a lot of warm. They aren't prepared for the cold weather, I guess. And so I was freezing a lot. There was a couple of times when I slept in my coats. So the stuff like that. It was a really interesting but hard period for me. And that was the first time I was alone in a place that I knew no one, and didn't even I haven't even been to that place. So it was something like completely new, something throw me in the new environment, fully new environment, and I had to figure that out. First, one of the first things I did was, I think on the first or second day, I found a best gym possible there, at least in the center of the city where I planned to live um, around the place, where it was convenient to go. But that gym was the center of my life at that moment. It was, I sometimes even used to go there for the shower because my hotel showers were completely awful because it was so cheap. It was literally a room without sometimes even even hot water. So it was a really weird experience. But yeah, that was the time when I decided to save some money and don't waste it on better conditions because I didn't know where I will end up and how much I will need. So that was it. And this gym supported me psychologically a lot. And that is probably one first point I want to notice here is in this new environment where it's completely new and you have to stay there for a long amount of time, not like for a couple of days, but weeks or months. It's really important to find something that will support you and be kind of your like a some kind of a safe space, even if it's gym is a really strange place for a safe space, right? But for me it was like that because of my just I was obsessed with gym. I started liking it at that time, and to stay in some kind of structure in my life, that was probably the only okay, there was two things. One was the gym that remained from my structure before, and that is really supported me because when I was feeling bad, I could still go there in the place that in a couple of weeks I learned a lot and I liked it because it was so quality. It was better than a lot of my places where I lived. So I went there. I really looked forward to go there because I could relax there. There was a pool inside, there was good showers, this place was just comfortable and it gave me a lot of I think it protected my mental condition a lot just to have this gym inside in that place. And the hotels I was renting after that because I didn't plan all of the places because I didn't know the city. I didn't want to live in some really non-convenient district. So I was booking everything like 1 or 2 weeks in advance. And so when I found this gym, everything that I booked after that was around this gym in like 10 minutes of walk. So yeah, that was fun. Second thing that really supported me at that time was my 365 project that was going on. I talked about this before. Uh, I have an article, huge article about what this 365 project gave me, and there is a links on my blog if you want to watch it. It's photography Photoshop project where I edited photos. So I had to do one photo every day, and I considered it something even bigger than me. And so even at the most depressive periods, I had a couple of them there. I still had to do something. I still had at least to post some photo. There was a couple of days where I just couldn't even edit photos, so I just uploaded some photos that I took before. And but still, it gave me this sense that even if I don't have anything going on in my life right now, I created this bigger purpose for myself and I need to complete it. And that just allowed me to go on and not break down completely because I still had to focus at least some of the minutes of each day. That's what I'm doing right now. I didn't have that big of a breakdown as I was having there. I didn't have big breakdown, but I was having a lot of small breakdowns over the course of 2 months in Armenia. And yeah, but here this project right now what I'm doing, it also helps me because every day, even if I don't want to, I need to sit down there and record some videos or at least upload something that I did before. So it really helps with bringing me back to the reality, to the productive state, and it makes sure that no day will go wasted. I just cannot get off track because this thing is better than me and I just cannot fail it. So that is awesome. Here I want to notice that I want to point out that again in some really maybe new environment, new uh, maybe you have a completely new environment around you. Maybe you didn't move to another country or a city, but maybe your life changed completely. Maybe there are different people now, different work, different your hobbies or something like that. Have something that you can look forward to each day, or at least if you cannot even look forward to it, you have to do each day something that you know adds to your life, really adds. So if it's work, well, you're kind of working for someone else, and that may not be something that is kind of bigger than you. For you, it may work, but for me, it couldn't. So this project that I was doing basically for myself, for my development, it was something bigger than me, and that gave me the energy to just go on through the hard moments. So that is really important to have something like that. Um, Another thing, yeah, now I want to talk about dating stuff that I talked before. So Armenia, if you don't really know what it is, it's a really traditional country, really traditional. There are a lot of family values. People just it's it's really not open-minded. It's don't have a lot of these. Well, I guess you know what I mean. The really traditional country. And so dating-wise, Tinder doesn't work here. Even on Tinder, mostly there were profiles with absolutely no pictures at all. That was just hilarious. That became a meme there for me because like 8 out of 10 profiles were completely without the picture or with pictures of a cat's environment or something like that. And what is that? But I understand they just don't care. Uh, and yeah, I guess they either really afraid or they just don't care, or I think it's a combination of both. But even then, even while my first month was completely non-productive and there were a lot of people that just well I guess there were no people that reciprocated to me. Almost no one answered me, and even the girls who were answering didn't seem really enthusiastic. It was like they don't even want to use it for the Tinder purpose, right? Meeting people and going on dates and having sex and all of that. And I was kind of discouraged to use it there, but I still continued because what else do I have? And it surprisingly, even in that traditional country, even with all of the struggles that I went through there and not on my even good state, sometimes all that matters is to show up, is to put yourself out there. For me, it was just keeping using Tinder and just spending a lot of time and energy there. And I just, I guess I would call that luck, but it's just a numbers game. Basically, you're showing up and then the numbers game works. Eventually, you will encounter someone in dating or in whatever else, in whatever area of your life. Even if something seems really not probable to do, not probable to happen, it still can happen, right? If there is the possibility, it can. And especially counting dating, I I just kept showing up, and I met a really open-minded girl there in the traditional country, and I had an awesome time there with her. And I obviously won't tell anything in details because yeah, I don't want to disclose anything personal. But even in these traditional countries, there are groups of people who are open-minded, who are into something that is some groups of people who are not sharing the views of the like 99% of the population, even probably more. So it was a small group of people, but I was glad I found them, and they were really cool. And all of this experience was really awesome. And so why am I talking about all of this? Sometimes showing up is all that matters. It doesn't mean that you always will have success, because it is a numbers game and you can show up for a long time, you can just put yourself out there and it just won't happen. Yes, that is a risk that we can take, but sometimes all that it takes. The main reason here, the main point that I want to give you, it it's sometimes if you feel that something just gets a lot of your energy, just do the bare minimum there. For me, showing up was going on Tinder and just swiping for a couple of minutes, and that was it. It still took a lot of my energy because I had to face that no one wants to meet me. But over time investment and money investment, I just didn't do that. I stopped uh, investing a lot of money there. I didn't use any boosts, so I was just swiping, and that just happened. And if it didn't, I wouldn't have wasted a lot of effort there. And when there is highly improbable situation, just do the bare minimum, just show up there, allow yourself to be there if there will be the right moment. So allow yourself to be in the right moment, in the right place, in the right time, right? And yeah, sometimes it's all that matters. And make sure that it just don't use a lot of your energy. And that was it. That is it. Just do that in the background, and eventually you can have success. If you don't, you're not wasting a lot of time. So yeah, that's all I wanted to notice here, to point out here. Yeah, and so one of the huge events that happened there, in one of my breakdowns, before this all dating success, especially because I wasn't having any success and I was alone and everything was just feeling like it was a month after a month I was there. So it hit me how much I sacrificed and I wasn't getting a lot in return. I already had plans to move here when I am now in Serbia, but I still had 1 month to live there. And it was taking a toll on me to be alone, to just put so much effort into a lot of stuff and not having any results. I tried to meet with some people on the street, approach some girls just to talk to, because at that time I couldn't, and I tried to give at least compliments or ask for time, something really minor, and I couldn't. And all of this stuff, I handled a lot of the mental stuff that was inside my head at that time. And I had a breakdown when I, for a couple of days, couldn't do almost anything. I only uploaded my photos, and that was it. I couldn't even focus on work properly. And after that, I realized that even if something, I had one of the biggest realizations of my entire life that helps me to this moment and probably will help forever, that it doesn't really matter how long I will spend on some of my desires, of some of my goals, and failure doesn't really matter. Even me not attempting something, so internal failure, doesn't that matter if I just keep that thing in mind, keep that desire in mind, because I won't quit. I will just go on. And that caused me to have this tattoo that's called, for everyone listening to the audio version, you probably didn't hear me here correctly, so there was a tattoo that I made there. That's literally the words "I will never quit." And it was a promise that I made for in that moment. I was following this principle for a year before, I think. When I first, it is a concept from Andy from Kill Your Inner Loser. And so it's partly his words, partly my take on it, because it means, my take on it means how I was telling it inside my head, with the exact words that I was telling it for me. And when I made this tattoo, basically wrote it on me, it was like a final reminder that, yeah, I'm not able to quit. I will not do that. I will never quit. And even if I don't do some immediate huge progress, or I cannot do some things that I really want to do, or take a long time to do that, take a couple of years, or fail a couple of times, or keep failing and keep not having results, I still want that. I still want this goal, this thing in my life, so I will not stop working on it. Even if it brings me pain, I will just take some breaks. I can forget about it for some time, but I will still return. And so I'm not able to quit. And later I reshaped it as, in my mind, uh, it's not the particular goal, because particular goals can change. We can give them up, and that is okay. That is us learning that this thing that we wanted before, it doesn't do anything for us anymore. So it's probably better to focus on something else. That is okay. Giving up, tactically in the moment, or even some big goals, if you know something else will add more to your life, is okay. It is important to know where to give up something. But overall, self-improvement, overall, this idea that being the best version of myself I possibly can at every moment, and just trying to improve myself with small steps every day, that idea I just will never be able to quit. And that means that whatever I would want in my life, I will eventually achieve. So that thing that really supported me. Sometimes I forget these words that I tattooed them on me, but in a couple of last months when I had some breakdowns and some down periods, just looking at my hand and seeing that phrase, I will never quit, it reminded me of that. It reminded me that it doesn't really matter if I don't have the results now. I will have them in some time. I am not quitting working on it. So it's just impossible that I won't have any results in a year or a couple of years. And then it's finished. It's just, if I already got some results, it's easier to expand them too. The first result is the most difficult one, but then you rely not only on faith, but on the idea that you already got results. And the more results you get, more wins you get, the easier they become, and you learn a lot of stuff along the way. So it is inevitable to achieve something. And this is a good reminder that because I will never be able to quit, that I will achieve whatever I would want. And it helps me a lot now. And it helped me a lot then, because that at that time in Armenia, it was me coming after a breakdown and wanting to write that finally. And it helped me a lot. It just gave me such an immense boost to this belief in the future, belief that everything will be okay. I didn't have these words at that moment. I was too nervous. I was too, probably better to say too I forgot how it's called, but too anxious and too frustrated to actually believe that, oh, everything is okay. But I believe that sometime in the future something will be okay. At least I will achieve everything that I want. So it helped me a lot. So yeah, have these reminders. What I want to take, what I'm trying to give you here. I think that's just as a story, it's really relatable and already kind of good. But yeah, if you have something that you can do to remind yourself of some of your beliefs that are really important to you, some figures, some words, whatever it is, it helps. It may not help all the time, but it helps in the most important moments that I wanted to say. Yeah. So overall on that time I was, yeah, let's get back to dating stuff. So I told about the dating success in Tinder, and then on the last 2 weeks, because I didn't quit, and it was after my tattoo, and after a week of after a couple of weeks of just relaxing, and I was traveling to other cities that were not really popular, and I was having a really hard time there. But then I returned to Yerevan, the main city in Armenia, and I started Approach Anxiety program. This is the program from Good Looking Loser site, and it's basically starts up by props you up to talking to girls, because that's what I wanted to do. It can, for any girls listening, if you do, it works exactly the same with any people. Just for me, it was the desire of talking to girls, because I wanted some dates, I wanted to meet girls in that way. But it works perfectly for making friends, I guess, and just having people when you move, when you travel in some new places. That's why I wanted to, like, the second idea why I wanted to do this Approach Anxiety program. It basically starts by asking time of strangers. In my uh, in my situation, it was particularly girls, and then asking some questions like the directions to somewhere, then asking some opinion, and it just slowly ramps up to then some weird things like you still uh, it is kind of cool. It really trains this social, how is it called, social freedom, yeah. And that's what I wanted, the second point why I wanted to do this Approach Anxiety program, and why sometime in the future I will probably return to it and complete it, because I didn't. I went through some questions at the start, so it was like a couple of it was always a week in. The whole program is 40 days, something like that. And after my 7 days in, I was able to say compliments to some girls and then to actually ask them for number and all of this stuff. I didn't have a lot of success in Armenia, of course, because the traditional mindset. So almost all that I got was no's or rejections, and but that was cool. That I didn't do that in Armenia for the purpose of getting some data at that time, because I was having like 2 weeks left, and I knew that almost no one will agree to that, to just go on a date with me if I just approach them on the street in the traditional country. But for me it was a practice, and just I was giving compliments, I was polite, and I think there was a lot of good reactions from girls. Some girls were not really understanding what's going on and were kind of afraid. But I guess they were just they didn't know what was going on, so there wasn't like any panic reactions. It was just like weird reactions. But there was a lot of girls who actually enjoyed the compliments and that I was brave enough to just talk to some random people. And yeah, that was cool. That was really cool experience. And for me, it was probably the biggest event of the whole year at that time. And to realize that I beat my approach anxiety in the Armenia, in one of the most traditional countries, is just mind blowing to me. Yeah, that was just for. I don't have anything to add here. It's just for the context and for the reflection, something to relate to maybe. It was really hard. It was really hard. I was going through a lot of internal struggles. I failed a couple of days, but over the end, it was totally worth it, because this social freedom, even if I cannot do that every time now, just being that this possibility that I already did that somewhere in the past, so it's not that hard anymore. It's like there was this huge wall that I couldn't pass, and now it's gone. And that makes me just feel more free right now after almost a year after that. It really makes me feel more free. So yeah, that was a huge thing that I did there. Yeah, I want to end up this probably because I talked about almost everything that I wanted to point out here, and my camera probably will turn off at any minute now, so it will, if it will disappear, you know what happened. From people listening to this on a podcast, nothing will change. Yeah, so I want to finish this with overall feel from that 2 months. So for me, that was the first trip to another country by myself, alone. And in this situation, even with all of the struggles that I had a really bad time there. Sometimes some days I literally drank myself to non-existence by drinking a lot of wine or even something stronger, just because I didn't want to face outside world, and I was staying in my hotel numbers just drinking. Didn't help that Armenia has a really good wine, so I was tasting wine by drinking the whole bottle, and then by being drunk it was like it dulled the pain, of course, like alcohol does, but then it only enhanced it the next day, so in that moment it felt really painful. But looking back, it was an interesting experience, even if I had to drink myself to non-existence at that time, because I believe I needed that there. I wouldn't recommend that to anyone because there are better solutions. But if you did something like that in your past and you're still, it may have been painful, it may have brought you something bad in your life, maybe there are some consequences that you're still suffering today, but you needed that at that time. I wouldn't argue with your past. There is no point. It's just better to accept it. And in my case, it wasn't that serious. It didn't give me any consequence. I just remember how painful it was in the moment. But now I cannot feel pain. I only feel that it was a really awesome experience overall, with me just being on this swing of being completely down, completely broken, and then at the couple of next days just going back up with a lot of motivation, just going there and exploring new places and having this a lot of energy to just push through and do something crazy. I went on a couple of hikes in these cities while I traveled, where after the time where I was completely depressed and down, I discovered a lot of cool hobbies like geocaching there as well, because I just didn't have anything else to do. I beat my approach anxiety because I literally couldn't use Tinder there and I was in pain because of that. And overall, I just explored a lot of stuff and learned to handle a lot of my breakdowns and a lot of the struggles that I had. And I learned how that when I was in the middle of these 2 months, I thought sometimes that my life will end and everything is breaking down. But looking back, it was only 2 months, and it gives me some perspective to see that I may have a couple of months of struggling or even almost quitting and not being anything productive. But after some time, I will still see that it was really productive because I learned a lot from that time. And these 2 months in Armenia were definitely the place to learn for me. And a, just a lot of cool experiences that I will remember for all my life from there. Yeah, I think that was all that I wanted to say. Deeply grateful to everything that I experienced in Armenia in these 2 months. My camera just turned off. That's a sign for me to wrap up. Sorry for people listening or watching the video. Couple of minutes. My finishing will be without my video, but I'm gonna finish up here and yeah, just look forward to something that happens. If you're in the middle of some painful situation, of something really struggling for you, just bear with it. Sometimes there is no way out for a while. That can happen. But after some time, you will remember that if you can let it go, if you can let the pain that you felt go in some way, you will look back and see that it may have been even a really good learning experience for you. At least overall, we have no control over the full outcome. We can only control the what we are doing about our lives. So there is no point of fighting something that already happened or something that's happening exactly now, but you can adjust and you can change your life and make it better in the future. For that, use everything that you learned along the way. That's all I wanted to say today. Stay awesome, guys. See you in the next episodes.